Hi everybody, this is Ashley with Ashley Says So, and I am back with another old Hollywood scandal video. And before we get started, I wanted to do a quick mention to a give, send, and go set up by my nephew Tobias, looking for any assistance with helping his mother, who is also my sister Shaquana, with the aftercare costs of her corrective feet surgery. If anybody is interested, please click the links pinned in the top comment for more information. All right, let's get to the video.
Now, Loretta Lynn's motto was that if you couldn't fight for your man, then he wasn't worth having. And baby, I'm here to tell you, Loretta must have believed this wholeheartedly. Because when I say she took all kind of mess off this man, oh baby, that wasn't even the half of it. So baby, y'all go ahead and put y'all seatbelts on, because we're in for a scandalous and very wild ride. After this disclaimer,
everything in this video is alleged. It is gossip, tea, and scandal that I get from everywhere. Make sure you guys do your own research.
Loretta Webb, aka Loretta Lynn, was born on April the 14th, 1932 in Butcher Hollow, Kentucky. Her mother's name was Clara Marie Webb, and her father's name was Theodore Ted Webb. And on top of Loretta, the Webbs had at least 7 more children, and the whole family was dirt poor. The family lived in a little rundown shack that had no water, no electricity. There were cracks in the walls, holes in the floor. In fact, Loretta's mom couldn't even afford wallpaper. She cut out pictures from newspapers and magazines and pasted those on the wall. Now, just because Loretta was born into a poor family and they lived in a little rundown shack, it didn't mean that the family wasn't happy. Loretta and her siblings would go outside and play all day. You know, her mother would love on them and she would cook good food. But the highest point of Loretta's day would be the time that she was able to spend with her father, Ted. He was very kind and he was very caring. And this was something that many people actually felt would make Loretta's future life very ironic, because they couldn't understand how a daughter who was raised with such a loving, caring, and present father could end up with a husband who was the total opposite. And I don't know the answer to that, but let's talk about when that husband first entered Loretta's life. Per the story, Loretta was around 13 to 15 years old, and she had entered into some type of contest that was a mix between a pie baking contest as well as a bake sale. And while Loretta was presenting her pie as one of the options, a handsome and very self-assured young man yelled from the audience, "I'll take that pie. I'll also give a walk home to the pretty girl behind it." And that is just what the gentleman did. Now, on the walk home, Loretta found out that her handsome suitor's name was Oliver Doolittle Lynn. He had served in the military and that he was single and up for grabs. Now, I'm not sure if at the time she also found out that Doolittle was around 20 to 21 years old while she was only between 13 and 15. But honestly, when you think back to that time period, even if she did find out at that moment, I don't think it would have mattered much. The only thing that did matter to Loretta was seeing Doolittle again and seeing him every chance she got. Baby, the folks say that you couldn't stop that girl from sneaking out the house. Say that she used to sneak out so smooth that she probably was slipping through one of them holes they had in their float. It was said to be so much kissing, rubbing, and dry humping going on that after about 2 weeks to a month, Doolittle and Loretta declared that they were in love and they were ready to get married. And so when they made this decision or this pact, Loretta sneaks back in the house and she is just smiling. She can't wait until the next day when she informs her parents. But when she does inform her parents, not only did they not want Loretta to marry Doolittle, they didn't want her to see him at all anymore. Well, Loretta is upset, honey. You know, her parents just don't understand her, and so she's just popping off at the mouth, and she's getting so disrespectful with it that soon her father flies over the table and slaps fire from her mouth. This stopped Loretta from her disrespectful talk, but it did not stop her from seeing Doolittle. As a matter of fact, she went back and told Doolittle what her parents said about her not being able to marry him, and Doolittle tells her, don't worry about it, he's gonna handle it. The way Doolittle handled it was by busting into her family home and telling her mother and her father to their face that he was going to marry their daughter Loretta whether they liked it or not. And so, on January the 10th, 1948, Loretta Webb married Oliver Doolittle Lynn, making her Loretta Lynn. And the mess started very early on. And by early, I mean on Loretta's actual wedding day. Because per Loretta, on her wedding day, she was informed that she was not Doolittle's first choice of wife and that he also was not in love with her. Whoever was telling her this told her that Doolittle had actually been in a long-term relationship with another young girl, but he was shipped off with the military. Well, when he came back, he went to his girlfriend's house, set on proposing to her, and found out that she had already gotten married. So on that initial night when he met Loretta, Doolittle was actually on the rebound and mourning his ex-love. Now this information of course hurt Loretta, but this was her wedding day. She was not going to let it bother her, but honey, let me tell you, it would come back to bite her later on. Before we can get to that story, let's get to the wedding night. You see, since Loretta had grown up so sheltered, she thought that all of that dry humping and kissing that she and Doolittle had done when they were dating was lovemaking. So when Doolittle got her to their hotel room and he expected her to take off her clothes, Loretta was basically like, no, what for? Child, these folks say that Doolittle yanked her behind on that bed and ripped off her clothes and her undie. But right when he was about to force her legs open, Loretta started crying, and this stopped Doolittle in his tracks. Well, fortunately, Doolittle didn't mess with Loretta for the rest of the night. But that next morning, it was clear that he was upset. And I say this because after their first night together, she was still laying in the bed and Doolittle was getting up, he was putting on his clothes, and he had ended up opening the front door of the hotel room to let a breeze come through. Well, Loretta, clearly not noticing that her husband was still a little upset from the night before, thought it would be a good idea to repeat a funny little goofy saying, "Shut that door, you little whore." Baby, them folks say that Doolittle turned around and was like, "You raggedy bitch, how dare you call me a whore when you didn't even give me the kitty cat tour? I'll get you together. You gonna learn how to talk to me." Said he laid her across his lap and started whipping her. And from that day after their wedding onward, this kind of set the tone for Doolittle's behavior with Loretta. She just couldn't do anything right. She always said the wrong thing. She always did the wrong thing. He always wanted to punish her in some way. She said every single meal that she cooked, whether a breakfast, lunch, dinner, no matter what, he would take one bite out of it, look at her, say something about the meal being terrible, get up, and then throw the food on the floor to the dog. And when she became pregnant with their first child, it got even worse. Gossip claims Loretta found out she was pregnant when she was already 4 months along. She rushed home to tell her husband, and baby, the first thing he did was pick up the phone, call his brother, and tell his brother, "Hey boy, get this heifer out of my house. She's all pregnant and I don't want her no more. I don't even want to be married to her no more. Just get her out of here." Loretta said she stood there in shock and was still in shock until she was standing at her mama and her daddy's front door. Loretta said she cried, said she was telling her mama, I don't know why he treats me this way. I don't know what to do. I don't know why he put me out. Turns out Doolittle had reconnected with that woman that he wanted to marry for real in the first place. She and her husband had split up. And so when Doolittle found out his true boo was single, baby, he went running back to her. Loretta Lynn was 15 years old and pregnant with a baby from a husband who did not want her. Now, her mama was all tore up about it just like Loretta was. But her daddy, he was just happy that the whole Doolittle saga was over with. But Loretta's daddy spoke too soon because when Loretta was 8 months pregnant, Doolittle came crawling back, begging her forgiveness, telling her that he was wrong and that their child deserved to have two parents that were together, only to deny that child in the end. See, child, the tea gets hot. Let me tell you how it went down. What had happened was, the whole time Loretta had been pregnant, Doolittle had been talking about him and his son. Every day, him and his son gonna do this, they gonna be that. Well, when Loretta gave birth, it was a girl. And Doolittle just couldn't deal with this. So when he saw his baby girl, he immediately told the doctors and nurses, "That's not mine. Get this baby out of here. I can't make no girls. All my family makes are boys. That's all I can make." And so the hospital staff is like, like, okay, and then tried to give the little girl to Loretta. But Loretta was so scooped up by the head and brainwashed that she also told them to get the baby away from her. That ain't my baby. If my husband can't have a girl, I didn't give birth to no girl. So where's my son at? That ugly baby ain't mine. Baby, I kid you not, Loretta Lynn said herself that she did this. And yes, she called that baby ugly. And with these people acting crazy like this, the hospital staff is just exasperated. Especially when Doolittle walked out of the delivery room and walked down to the baby viewing room, picked up a little boy and started fussing, saying, see, this is my child, this is my son. Why y'all trying to replace my son with a girl? The folks say the whole debacle lasted for at least an hour before a no-nonsense nurse or doctor came up to Loretta and was like, look, I don't know what you and your greasy head, slow in the mind husband got going on, but we're not gonna have this. You gave birth to a girl. This is your daughter. And the reason that she's so-called ugly is because we used forceps to pull her out. You need to take your daughter and you need to accept her. And it was only when Loretta got this stern talking to that she finally accepted that this was her child. This was her daughter. So she named her girl Betty Sue. And even though it took Doolittle a much longer time to accept it, by the time they took the baby home, he had finally somewhat come around. Now, a couple of years after Betty Sue was born, Doolittle finally got his wish when Loretta gave birth to a son by the name of Jack Benny. But if Loretta was looking for a surprise gift for finally having a son or a congratulations, she got something totally opposite. Rumor has it by this time, Doolittle and Loretta were actually living in Washington. But something happened with her family back home. I think her father may have been sick. Whatever the case, the family picked up and went back to Kentucky to visit Loretta's family. Well, one night during their stay, Loretta is there with Betty Sue as well as the new baby, Jack Benny. And Doolittle is just off doing his thing. And he's not a man that spends nights with his family anyway. He's off drinking or doing something. So Loretta doesn't think too much about it. Well, honey, that night, Loretta is sleeping peacefully when all of a sudden she hears, oh, wow, oh, God, why? I'm gonna kill everybody. I'm gonna kill everybody. So she rushes out to try to see what the commotion is about, and it is her brother. Honey said that the brother looked at Loretta and was like, your husband, your devil husband. I just caught him in bed with my wife. Child, Doolittle had effed his brother-in-law's wife. Loretta said that she was in shock. She was embarrassed. However, it still wasn't enough to stop her from getting in the car with her husband when he returned to the house the next day, demanding that she and the kids get their behinds in the truck so they can go back to Washington. Now, I guess when Doolittle figured out he could get away with something like this, oh baby, he just figured he could do anything. Gossip claims that he started to do things like waking up in the morning and telling Loretta that he was off to work and then wouldn't come home for 2 weeks. Loretta and the kids just sitting there starving, waiting, and got no money. And when this behavior first started, Loretta used to have to try to ask her neighbors, for food for her and her children. But after a while, you can't keep asking folks for stuff just because your husband acting a fool. And so Loretta learned how to hunt. Whenever Doolittle disappeared for weeks at a time and they didn't have any food in the house, she would kiss her 2 small children on their forehead, take the shotgun and go out into the woods and catch them some supper. And this is what really makes Loretta's story remarkable, because clearly she could survive on her own if she really wanted to, but it's like she didn't believe in herself enough. She was just that trapped up in the mind. So as soon as Doolittle would come back home, she would be like, oh, thank God, he's back. Thank you so much. He can take care of us now. But every time the man returned, he returned with more problems. Gossip claims when Loretta got pregnant with her 3rd child, she ended up going into labor and Doolittle took her to the hospital, but the man didn't come back. She labored for 3 days with that child with nobody there to support her. And so she ended up giving birth to her 2nd son, Ernest Ray, alone. And not only was she alone on that day, she was alone on the next day, she was alone on the day after that, and she was alone on the day after that, the day after that, and the day after that. Doolittle did not come back to the hospital until 6 days after his son was born. And I know if y'all haven't asked at any other time during this video, I know y'all are asking now, like, why didn't this woman just leave this man? But remember that motto I said in the beginning. She felt like if you didn't have to fight for your man, he wasn't worth keeping. She actually thought this is how love was supposed to be. And I can tell she thought that because soon after she had Ernest Ray, which was her third child, she got pregnant with her fourth child. And keep in mind, around this time, Loretta is probably only around 19 or 20 years old. But anyway, while she was giving birth to this fourth baby, thankfully Doolittle was at the hospital. But as soon as they came home from the hospital, Loretta found evidence in the house of Doolittle cheating on her. This affair right here was one of the special moments in Loretta's life. This is the first one that finally made her feel like, you know what, something's got to be done. Like, I got to do something. And no, her something wasn't leaving Doolittle, but she did decide it was high time to make him jealous. So Loretta says that she finds out about this big party or big festival that somebody is having over the weekend. She knows Doolittle is going, and so she decides she's gonna show up. And when she shows up, baby, she's gonna be laid. Just so Doolittle could see that, you know, he wasn't the only one that was interested in her. Well, Loretta goes to the party and she is looking fly. And as soon as she walks in, a guy starts vying for her attention. So Loretta notices the guy is cute and she starts to strike up a conversation with him. And then she very cutesy-like reaches over to the party table and grabs what she thought was a cup of juice. Child, that girl took a swig of that stuff and found out it was moonshine. Baby was immediately drunk. Not only was she drunk and slurring, she was coughing and choking too. And it was right at this moment that she saw Doolittle walking towards her. And baby, he was mad. Said he grabbed her arm real hard and took her home. And as soon as he did, he filled up the sink with water. And baby, Loretta said she didn't even know what was going on before she started drowning, honey. I mean, just a real life drowning, girl. Doolittle is holding this woman's head down in the sink. She said when he finally jerks her head up, he don't give her no towel or nothing, takes her by her hair to the children's room, flips on the light, tells the kids, get up, get up. How you kids like having a drunk for a mother? Now, I will say, out of all of these bad things we've said and will say about Doolittle, there is at least two good things. The first good thing is that he got his two front teeth knocked out. And the second good thing is that he is actually the one that pushed Loretta to start her music career. Now, as far as the teeth knocked out story, per Loretta, it happened on a night when she and Doolittle were supposed to take a romantic drive. And Loretta says she was excited, you know, she was counting down the hours, and then night fell. So she comes up to Doolittle and she's like, you know, I'm ready for our ride. Let's go ahead and go. Ride? What ride? You ain't going nowhere with me. I'm going for a ride. And after Doolittle says this, he starts walking to his truck. Well, Loretta is walking right out with him, baby. And when Doolittle gets in the truck to try to pull off, Loretta jumps in the truck with him. And she says she's just going off. So you think you can fill me up with this lie and have me waiting all day and then leave me to go cheat with somebody else? And she said Doolittle responded by telling her to shut up. And then he reached and started clawing for her head. Honey, Loretta said before she knew it, she reached over from that passenger seat and just wham! Said his two front teeth flew everywhere. And Loretta said as soon as she saw them leave his mouth, baby, she was petrified. But luckily for her, Doolittle was in such a state of shock that all he did was start holding his mouth like, you know, like that. And so she got out of the truck and ran in the house, child. Now, like I said, that's the first good thing that happened to Doolittle. And to just touch on the second good thing, the reason Loretta credits Doolittle with starting her music career is because at one point she was looking for a job and Doolittle came home and told her he got her a job, but it was a job singing at a club. And so, you know, eventually this blossomed into an A-list music career. Now, we won't talk too much about the music career, of course, because we're here for the scandal, but I do want to touch on the fact that it is claimed that Loretta Lynn and Patsy Cline were like this. They they were very close friends, and actually that makes sense because I'm sure one of the things they bonded over was the terrible treatment that they both got from their husbands. Because remember that Patsy Cline video, it was a sad video because of her death, but remember how her husband was treating her? But to get back to the scandal, Loretta bringing in money and being a successful singer didn't do anything but multiply her problems even more. As a matter of fact, gossip claims that Loretta would always tell this story about how her dream house was ruined. Let me tell you about it. So by this time, Loretta is a very popular country music star. And since she grew up in so much poverty, one of the main things she wants to do is have her dream house built. So she hires builders, she draws up all of these plans, she spends all of this money, and it just so happens to get done while she's still on tour. Well, Loretta is not tripping. You know, Doolittle and her children will be in the house, and she'll just have to be patient until she can finally get home. You know, then she could enjoy her first night in her dream house. Well, honey, gossip claims that Loretta's tour comes to an end. That woman pulls up to that house, walks through that front door, and it's stinking TT panties and boxes everywhere. And not only that, liquor bottles, certain paraphernalia spread all across the first floor of the house. It's so bad that it's stinking TT stained panties even floating in her pool. Loretta couldn't do nothing but shake her head and cry. Her husband, Doolittle, had an orgy in her dream house before she could even spend the first night there. What? Child, you talking about somebody who probably would have took off swinging, but Loretta did not. This was just one more thing that she could add to her list of heartbreak. And although the list was very long, it wasn't done just yet. Gossip claims that one of the things that she had also purchased that was very close to her dream home was a lot of land so that she could build a big ranch. And this wasn't just a normal ranch. I mean, it was a ranch too, but it also had like a park on it. It also had like a couple of stores on it. It was almost like an outing, you know, people could come visit. Well, anyway, Doolittle is off taking a golfing trip or somewhere, drinking out with the boys. I don't know. So Loretta says that she is at the store and, you know, she's just kind of working the counter, also getting things set up how she likes it. And while she's doing that, a gorgeous, I'm talking about fabulous younger woman comes walking in with some cowboy boots on and the shortest booty shorts you ever seen. Said the girl gonna say, hey, I've been sent to run this store, so whatever you're doing, you could just stop and go home or something. And Loretta looking around like, who are you talking to? Like, do you know that I'm Loretta Lynn? This is my store? Yeah, I know who you are. Dude said I would find you here, and he told me to tell you that you can leave because he's hired me to run the store. Honey, Loretta Lynn looked at this hoochie mama up and down, looked at her big bouncy boobs and her long legs sticking out from her short shorts, and she exploded. First of all, tramp, where the hell do you get off calling my husband by the name of Dude? It's Oliver, or Doolittle to you. I call him Dude. Secondly, I can tell by the looks of you how you're dressed that you're sleeping with him. But let me tell you something. This is my store. This is my ranch. And the reason I'm moving closer to the camera is because Loretta said, you know, she was pushing up on the girl. She actually pushed the girl all the way out the store, telling her that you need to get out of my store. This is mine. You're no longer welcome here. Honey, she got a told just like that. But the girl didn't take this lying down. She actually went back and told Doolittle what Loretta did to her. Don't you know Doolittle had the nerve to call Loretta? Loretta Webb Lynn, what has gotten into you? I mean, I really can't believe you. This young girl had come to me, you know, needing help. I'm trying to give her a job so she can support herself, so she can have some money to make it in the world. And this right here inflamed Loretta Lynn so bad that she did something that she thought she would never do, that she never even wanted to do. And that was pull rank. And so she told Doolittle, listen, baby, let me tell you something. Like I told your little tramp, this is my store. This is my ranch. This is my park. Anything and everything that you could think of calling yours actually belongs to me. It was bought with my money. And don't you ever think you can tell me what I'm gonna do with my own property and possessions. I said I don't want her here. Just what the hell is wrong with you, Loretta? You ain't right. You ain't right. Click. And that click was the best thing that he could do, because Loretta Lynn says she was not budging. And I don't know if this situation made Doolittle feel like he was emasculated and he had to get Loretta Lynn back, but he just took it to hell with the next thing he did. He really did. Because how about soon after this, Loretta found out that her husband Doolittle was sleeping with their son Jack Benny's girlfriend. Baby, this broke Loretta's heart, broke the son's heart, and really had the whole family just feeling kind of down and out. You know, this is just terrible, sir. Sleeping with y'all's son's girlfriend? And I think Doolittle kind of knew that this time he took it a little bit too far, because it was soon after this episode that he came crying to Loretta talking about, you know, he was a drunk. He was a drunk and he needed help. Oh, Lord, he wanted to be saved and he wanted to get sober. He just needed to go to rehab. And so she accepted all of her husband's apologies about sleeping, or allegedly sleeping, with that young girl, and she spent money for him to go to the Betty Ford clinic. But what's crazy is while Doolittle was in rehab getting himself clean, his son Jack Benny, that he had double crossed by messing with his girlfriend, had started developing a drinking problem of his own. As a matter of fact, this alcoholism is thought to be what led to Jack Benny's early death. Loretta Lynn said that it was absolutely the saddest thing that had ever happened in her life when her son passed. And what happened was that sometime in the year 1984, her son Jack Benny had told his wife, I think he was married, it was either his current girlfriend or he had gotten married, I'm not sure, but he had told her that he was going off to ride his horse. Well, the official report says that Jack Benny and his horse came up on a river and that he tried to cross the river on his horse, but I guess the horse ended up stumbling, or Jack Benny ended up stumbling, I'm not sure, but he fell and hit his head on the rocks, and he ended up drowning. Now, Jack Benny was only 34 years old, and Loretta just had an absolute terrible time accepting his death. There was something in her heart telling her somebody had done something to her son. You know, it was somebody around who had hit him across the head like that. As a matter of fact, as quiet as it's kept, it's rumor that for a minute she was suspecting her husband Doolittle, because I haven't touched on him much, but Doolittle had never treated his son Jack Benny well. You know, he always acted like he didn't like the boy. And then when the children became grown, Jack Benny was the child that Doolittle was always like, you know, you don't need to lend him no money. He a grown man. If he can't find the money to pay for himself, don't give him nothing. And so, like I said, all of this mixed together allegedly made Loretta start to kind of question her husband, like, you know, what happened to my son? But the folks say that Doolittle told her that their son had died by accident, and when Loretta tried to talk to the coroner, the police, and all these people, when she tried to say, I think something else happened, baby, the folks say that Doolittle told her to shut her mouth and let it go. And eventually she did. Now, as far as scandals, I'm sort of at the end with that. I didn't see anything else to add. I do want to say that Doolittle going to the Betty Ford clinic only lasted for about 5 weeks before he was back at home and back on the alcohol and back doing what he wanted to do. But Loretta loved her husband, and so she stood by his side for a full 48 years up until he passed away in the year 1996. You know, she'd also lost another child. Her daughter, Betty Sue, ended up passing away in the year 2013. And then she'd also lost a lot of her country music star friends like Tammy Wynette, you know, Conway Twitty, people she was really close to, she lost them. But Loretta Lynn held it down as a legend and a queen of country all the way until October the 4th, 2022, which is the night that she passed away in her sleep at the age of 90 years old. All right, guys, this is the end of the Old Hollywood Scandalous Tale of Miss Loretta Lynn. If you guys like the video, please like the video. If you guys are new here, please subscribe. I will be back with another video soon. Bye.